All right, everybody. So, Charlie and I are going to be doing our monthly check in with. So, I'm waiting for him to join. Let's see if I can kind of watch everybody as they are joining us today. Make sure that he's invited. So that way we can get started in on some topics here. So, yeah. I see Chuck. It looks like you might be having some technical issues, Chuck. There we go. Let's see if I got you added here. I see that you're watching, brother, but I don't see that you have joined yet. Well, Chuck, I'm not sure, brother. Do you maybe want to start it? That's a possibility. If you can, send me a message because I'm not seeing anything yet. I'll send you a message. Let's see. I'm going to try adding you again, Chuck, and see if that does it. I don't know. I'm able to join because of technical issues. It says you're having some technical issues, brother. I don't know. Okay. Um, I'm not sure. Are you seeing it? Does the invite flash on the screen for you? That might be what the problem is. Okay. I just sent you the invite again. Yep. Well,
There we go.
bam. Man, I'm like, it must flash really fast.
it does.
Wow.
But yeah, even that time I was ready for it, so I was able to join. Anyway, how you
Get
doing?
it together.
How you doing?
Pow. Pow, 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 pow. You knew better than to ask. I'm like makeup free,
Okay.
54, soon to be 55-year-old. This is what you get right here.
Hey, well,
Is it?
that's you know what, that's a good segue to get into the topic for the day.
It's a good segue.
It is a good segue. It's a good transition point.
All right. Well, just
Aging.
because absolutely. Before we do that, I started in right before you jumped on, and I was saying that you and I are jumping on to do our monthly kind of check-in with, and that can involve various topics, conversations, just an opportunity really just to kind of play tag in certain cases with some people, and just to be able to check in with others, have people check in with us that we haven't seen, haven't talked to, and like you said, just be able to cover current events. I mean, whatever that is, whatever it looks like. But since I'm sitting here talking about being 54, and technically you are a day older than me, probably even by hours, but
I was born at 7 o'clock in the morning, so yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I got to go back and look at my birth certificate. I don't know. But I think that is a good segue to talk about aging. And I know that our brother Vince So Vince, when you jump online and you happen to see this and say, how come y'all didn't invite me? Vinny, we're talking about the topic you were talking about. So there you go. But let's talk a little bit about aging. And as people join, and I can see people coming kind of going in and out. So as people join, hopefully they'll jump into the conversation too.
Yeah, I mean that's all it is just, again, you and I just having our regular conversation, and then they have an opportunity to be a fly on the wall. And
Absolutely.
if it touches them, they want to contribute, fine.
Absolutely.
If not, they listen, that's fine too.
Absolutely. So aging, good topic to start out with today.
It is.
Again, since you're older than me by a day, so old man, what's it like for you to be aging? You'll be 55 before me. So what's that like for you?
But hey, everything is in context. So to be honest with you, you already have many of our friends, because we had the opportunity to either be young seniors or old seniors.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
and the way at the time that the Rialto Unified School District failed, then I was able to be a young senior. So we have many of our friends who've actually turned 55 already.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been sending out birthday shout outs on Facebook. So they're already 55.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
context, just like what you mentioned to me, you're younger than me. We're both younger than they are.
Absolutely. But just remember, I'll always be younger than you.
Always, and you're right. You're right. Always. That's the one thing about time, is that it's consistent. It doesn't change. It's what you do with it.
Absolutely.
That really matters. So
absolutely.
So yeah, what is it like to basically, be 54, and that's the cohort that we're pretty much, most of our friends are in, and they might be a few years, and then we might have a few of our friends that are just a few years younger. But for the most part, the range is, from the people who we associate with, is probably anywhere from 35 to, 60 something. So
or older, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Older, depending on, again, where our friends come from, or where we know them from, church or from other situations, etc. So the only thing that I could pretty much say with respect to aging is that it's a constant. So you have to be able to the greatest degree possible, address it the way that you can.
Absolutely.
And there's some definite signs of aging. So for me, I wasn't born with the salt and pepper. I just choose not to I just choose not to color it. The good Lord took at least the front half of my hair from me, so I just chose the rest of it. So again, you that's what I'm saying. You pretty much can either flow with it, you can work against it, but still the choice is yours.
Absolutely. I'm gonna take a minute to say hello to my sister from church, Mindy. Good to see you online, and our sister from Eisenhower, Laura Garcia Neal. Hey, beautiful girl. Good to see you. I'm glad that you're watching. So just because you ladies are on right now, and I know that there's going to be some other people that are floating in and out. Chuck and I just like to what I like to call check in with each other and just have conversations. And this is really something that we just wanted to do on a monthly basis on Facebook, so that way we can catch up with all of you as well, and have this be an interactive conversation, or just if you want to listen in. So, but unscripted and just kind of free flowing, just being who we are. So there you go. I will say this, I can't lie that as a woman, I think aging is a tad bit different. Society says that as a man ages and gets gray and such, that he looks distinguished. When a woman does it, she looks old. And so, considering that a lot of us, male and female, as we age, find ourselves trying to keep up with the younger set of people to make ourselves continue to stay looking young, or as young as we can, or whatever that looks like. And so that's why the beauty industry is so popular and so lucrative, because we women are trying to look as young as we can for as long as we can. I know that our good friend Jackie Dana, our sister Jackie Dana from school, said she gave up on dyeing her hair years ago. And I'm like, I'm not there, sis. Matter of fact, my next hair appointment, I'm getting it done again. So I mean, you can see how light it is on top. All that lightness is probably all my gray. And it's being masked. It's being masked. But, oh, well, let it be. You know what I mean? But, yeah, just that whole concept of getting older and aging. I'm just grateful to be here because I don't have to be. I technically be with the good Lord right now. So I'm glad that I'm able to age. I'm glad that there's still a purpose for me being here. And I want to grow, you know, gracefully into aging. You know what I mean? I don't want to just be all of a sudden, you know, you see me today and then tomorrow, you know, I've let it all just go back. I've washed it all out or whatever it is. And all of a sudden I'm gray Tanya. Like, no, let's just gradually get there. You know.
Well, but one thing I don't want to to skip over it because you said something very
Mm-hmm.
profound, and I just want to touch on that in terms of the
Mm-hmm.
percent of women basically aging versus men,
Yes.
and glad you really went into that because there is a difference, and so why there's a difference, what the perceptions around that are, but that was very good that you were so transparent and vulnerable and even being able to bring that up because we know that it's there,
Absolutely.
we just don't talk. So it was
Yeah.
good.
Absolutely.
Now, from a man's standpoint, I'll just share with you. And again, that's one of the good things about, again, having a female friend because, as men, we have blind spots. We don't know it all. And as women, you don't know it all either. So being able to take, our perspective and then match it with your perspective, somewhere you find the truth.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about yours. Do you want to go ahead and finish and then I'll go into what it's like for a man or?
No, I mean, again, I think ultimately it really to me comes down to, as a woman, and the experience that I've had, I should say,
Okay.
I try my best to not worry about trying to look like a young woman or to try to keep up with young women or whatever. I feel like I've earned the right to have every gray in my head if I feel like wearing it, or just from the sake of I mean, let's just be very from an anatomical standpoint, gravity is such, like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, as a woman that has had some children, gravity is what it is. And so, am I really going to try to keep up by having various surgeries or this or that? Because technically, because I work in healthcare, it doesn't matter how many surgeries I have, them organs inside of your body are still old.
Same
It
age, yes. Mm-hmm.
does not matter what I do on the outside, it's the same thing inside. You know, I'm not having a whole bunch of different surgeries to replace, the organs. Those are aging every day with you. So, so again, for me, it's about um, wanting to grow old gracefully, as I mentioned. I don't necessarily worry, like I said, I'm not trying to keep up with young people. I'm grateful that I've made it here because again, I'm not promised.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm not too concerned, but that's just from my side of the street. So what were you saying about as you as a man versus for men, you're saying?
Well, and again, I think you touched on some very, very, valuable points. And I definitely appreciate that because now I have a better understanding of, my wife and other women in terms of what they're going through, whether it be consciously or subconsciously, and their ability to be able to, address it or even kind of flow with it. And so, what can we do as a man to help that process, to help you feel more comfortable as you continue to age gracefully? Because you're right. I think that is a badge of honor, and other societies actually look at it that way, especially in like the Asian culture. So there are other cultures, Hispanic culture, where grandparents are revered, etc. So those other cultures actually look at it very differently than we'll say the American culture.
Mm-hmm.
From a man's standpoint, as you talked about outside, from a man it's a little different. One of the biggest challenges that we have that again, what we're defined by is our ability to do what? Provide for, take care of. Well, you can kind of break that down into a subcategory, which is even our strength.
Yeah.
As you as you age, things that you used to be able to do, whether it be again associated with your strength or stamina, etc., begin to wane. And even if you do things like going to the gym to try to keep it up, it still slowly but surely over a period of time still kind of erodes. So
Yeah.
I'll just give you a funny example. Probably about 12, 13 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So again, my time.
Mm-hmm.
About 13 years ago, my daughter at the time, she was doing track and field in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And one of her events was the long jump.
Okay.
Well, back in the day when I ran track, that was one of my events.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do the long, and I think at 12 years old I was jumping like 14 feet. So that was
Oh,
pretty 12-year-old.
right.
It's not the Carl Lewis's and the others that jumping 29, 30 feet. But again, as a 12-year-old, it was okay.
Yeah.
But I was trying to teach her how to long jump, and I was in my driveway, and I kind of did a little trot. I didn't do a run because I'm older now. I
Mhm.
did a little trot, and I jumped from one point, and I probably only jumped about 3 feet. And I realized, I realized then that that the days were gone. Time had passed me, and that I could no longer do the things that I used to do. Um, and so, from a man's standpoint, sometimes it could be a little embarrassing when your mind says, "This is what I'm capable of doing," but your body doesn't cooperate.
Mhm.
I just
Mhm.
thought, that was just one moment in time that I had to kind of laugh about it because it was painfully obvious that I could not do what I used to do. And even in terms of talking, I had conversation with Sam Lamar just on yesterday, and we were talking about him, Greg Creighton previously talking about, and Vinny before, and I think you were part of that conversation, just talking about all the things that we used to do. I mean, we used to ride our bikes, then go to basketball or football practice, and then come home and swim in the King's pool, and we did all that in the course of one day. You talking about the amount of energy that takes to actually just regular day-to-day activities, play wiffle ball during the day, then leave and go to football practice,
Mhm.
and then after football, come home and swim,
Mhm.
and I swim for hours. I couldn't do that now. So, so from a man's standpoint, like I said, whether it be just physical attributes and the ability to do certain things, or even in terms of stamina, that's one of the things that that begins to play on us as a part of aging, and I don't know how to do that gracefully. I don't know how to maintain stamina gracefully.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Well,
it's
and
just something.
that's a real fact. But that is a real fact. I think, unfortunately, you and I've talked about this before. We have turned into our parents.
Mhm.
We are now them. We're
Yes.
them. I
Yes.
mean, that's scary. We're them.
Yes.
Uh,
We're them.
so them meaning our first couple of years in college. Them, because I think our parents were probably in their 40s when we graduated, something like that. 40s, maybe 50s, but whatever the case.
Yeah.
But
My.
we not turned into them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not
Yeah.
very promising. I don't want to be them. I don't. But I'm her. So I'm like, oh, I'm her.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's the reality, though. You are your mother.
Well, no, I'm really my father in a woman's body.
Oh,
Make no mistake of that.
okay. Well, you're.
Whether I like it or not is what it is. But yeah, I've definitely turned into them.
Yeah.
It's an amalgamation of the two of them together, and this is it. It is what you're dealing with. Um, but when you mention stamina on many fronts,
Mhm.
you talk about in your youth how as kids we would have recess and and then back in Rialto back in those days, or should I say California for those that aren't from that area. Back in those days we had smog alerts. You remember that?
Mhm.
In the 70s we had really bad smog, all that industrial smog that we had, and we had smog alerts. And to think about us being outside, running around playing, and having to slow down because it felt like we had asthma
Mhm.
because the smog was so heavy. But yeah, we were out there running and playing, blah, blah, blah. Then we get home, come in, rest for a little bit, wrap a snack, and then we were back out at it. Or we'd be out all day in the summertime,
Yes.
running, playing, blah, 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 riding our bikes, whatever the physical activity was, we were there.
Mhm.
We used to walk to school.
Mhm.
Walk.
Mhm.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's going to be somebody that comes on the live that says, well, I used to walk, but I had to walk like 20 miles. Well, we didn't have to do
No.
that.
Yeah.
For little people walking to school and, walking a 15-minute walk to school, it seemed like a lot. Or
And
a
this.
22-minute walk to Eisenhower from like our neighborhood, to the high school. It seemed like a lot. Or 30 minutes, however long. It depends direction you went, I guess.
Mhm.
But we could do it there and back
Mhm.
and never thought anything about it. Didn't care anything about it. So, I don't
That's what I'm saying. It's all relative, depending on how far you go back. And so,
know.
since we're on this live, put me on here. I'm gonna put you on blast. Even you playing tetherball.
Yeah.
You were like the tetherball queen,
Where's
and Benny was the tetherball king.
where's
So, yeah, you were the tether. So even again, I'm talking about just again something just like tetherball. I mean, you used to tear that ball up. Could you do that now?
no, not in the least bit. Not not even going to play like I could. I probably could get out there and hit it a couple, 2 or 3 times. I'm like, okay, I'm done. And that's terrible, you know.
But,
And
but
what
it's not. It's just a part of the process.
it is a part of the aging process, but at the same time, what have I done to keep myself conditioned? Because aging doesn't have to always mean, you know, I go from being a 10-year-old to now a 54-year-old in a blink.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were in very good condition in those days as young people because they kept us
Yeah.
active. But you become an adult and you start working a 9 to 5 and let it be a sedentary job, and it's a whole different conversation. Or like I tell Steve, my oldest son, baby, you can't sit around eating like you're doing 3-a-days with football.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
And
right.
you're training for sport. You can't eat like that because you're not physically active like that anymore.
Yeah.
You
Yes. And see,
can't.
I mean, you're absolutely right. But even at what point though? Because I remember some telling me a story about, people who, down in the South, two big things that really require a lot of physical, energy and exertion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cutting down trees, because we have a bunch of trees. Cutting down trees, and also the roofing work, the roofing
Mm-hmm.
industry. And
Mm-hmm.
so they're pretty much a young man's, or even woman, because women do it too, a young man's game.
Yeah.
Because you have that, but when you get to 50, you're old. You can't climb that tree with the chainsaw and et cetera and have the same dexterity. Yeah, it becomes dangerous. So everything, and even in terms of professional sports, you're talking about people retired at 32.
Yeah. Yeah. The young man's game.
It's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's what I'm saying in terms of aging, it being relative.
Mm-hmm.
Even us who try to stay, active and athletic, like we did in our youth, just for the simple fact that you've been doing it since you were 5 or 6 or 4. By the time you're 32 years old, I mean, you've been doing it 28 years.
Oh yeah.
Or even in terms of football, as you mentioned that. I mean, you're right. Our kids played, I played. But what were the damage? Not just the games, because I probably played in 10 years. I probably played maybe about 100, 125 games.
Mm-hmm.
But the practices,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you have to add the practices in there in terms of the collision, etc.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that actually takes a wear and tear on your body.
And the year-round sport,
Yes.
for the season, whatever that is. So you had Stephen Kenneth play basketball football during football season. Kenneth play basketball during basketball season. They both wrestled during wrestling season, which was right after football. I mean,
Right.
it was a constant. And weren't you an All-American? Did you play all of them?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm gonna say it again because I was trying to be slick about it. Hey Chuck, weren't you an All-American? You played all the sports, right?
But I was only blessed to be an All-American in baseball, but and that was at college. But I mean, again, even high school, I had to give up basketball after our sophomore year. I mean, and the beautiful thing is that football was in the fall, so I could get and play that, and then baseball's in the spring, so there was a break.
Yeah.
But those that basically played, football and then would transition into basketball, there was really no time for them to rest. Or basketball transitioning into baseball.
Yeah.
So even in terms of the placement of the sport, and that was going back to the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about, you mentioned a very, very valid point, sports being year-round now.
Yes.
So you're right. We used to, pick up a basketball during basketball season, a football during football season, a baseball during baseball. But if you're talking about wanting to be competitive, you have to pretty much choose to be a specialist.
Yes.
And be prepared to play that year round.
I feel like they're training when they're not physically going. It's still training. Something is going on. You're still practicing. You're training. You're keeping condition. You're staying in condition. Staying in shape.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way you get better, they say.
They say to master something, you have to do it for 10,000 hours.
Absolutely.
So again, those things take a toll on the aging process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And again, now we're at our age. I think that's why this conversation is so very, very important. How are we handling it? And you've spoken earlier about how you are, your attitude towards it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to even develop my attitude towards it, because that's really where it starts. It starts with your attitude towards it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Happen, but from a spiritual standpoint, I'm grateful to the good Lord that I'm still here.
Yep.
But at the same time, still having to deal with my physical limitations, not being able to do what I used to be able to do. One more bounce.
I see Brother Marlon has joined us.
Yeah.
Brother Marlon. All right now, Marlon. Again, just from an aging, and so again, we have some people that are watching, and Marlon, please jump into the conversation, brother. Would love to hear your thoughts on aging, especially since we're all around the same age. Da 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 da. I think what's interesting about aging is the aches and pains that you never had naturally as a child, that it would take an injury to have, that you find yourself having now just by waking up and stretching the wrong way, or stepping on, out of your bed the wrong way, or whatever that is. I'm amazed by that. And I'm not one that likes to take a lot of medications, again, even though I work in healthcare. So what? I don't like to take a lot of medications. So when people say, or when you go to the doctor, you're like, yeah, I'm a little achy and, got a pulled muscle, or blah, 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 blah. And they're like, you take some ibuprofen? You may want to start taking a daily dose of ibuprofen to get you going there. And I'm like, I don't want to mask it. It's a part of my aging process. And I'm going to live with it because I've got a lot of miles on this body. I've got 54 years on this frame. And I've done many things to it in this moment. So it's like, I got to deal with what I've made it endure. So there you go. But,
and like you could possibly approach it. You won't stop it.
Right.
Because you can't stop time. It will never be 12:43 ever again on February 17th or 18th in 2024. It'll never be that again. So
Absolutely.
You can't stop it. You could possibly slow it down.
Yeah.
But again, whether it be like you said about the cosmetic thing with respect to that was so very, very profound that you even brought that up from a woman's perspective. And I do again, I appreciate that. But even from a man's perspective, going to the gym, at least trying to salvage the muscles that you do have, to be able to do other things, in your life, such as walking,
Yes.
Reaching up to grab something from the top shelf, or even, vacuuming or washing your car or whatever. So, the more you do, the more you do. So yeah, definitely very, very important.
Yeah. Well, and when we talk about plastic surgery, you brought it up again, that I brought it up earlier. And I say it for a reason. It's not obviously not just a woman's thing. We know many men go underneath the knife or whatever that is, for a multitude of things. And again, I'm not an advocate of plastic surgery for me, but I don't condemn anyone for getting it for them. Like I said, I can't stop the clock.
You know what? I don't either. But okay, but this is the truth though. There have been actually gotten it, and I know to them, after they come out of surgery and they take the bandages off, they for them they actually look normal or look like something has happened. But to the rest of us, we're like, ooh, you paid to do that to yourself? You actually paid to do that to yourself?
Well, let's ask this, and it's in a similar vein, right? But it's in contrast from a mental standpoint. I think a lot of people are just not happy or not satisfied in something they see, or how they view themselves, and so it makes sense for them to do it, even though we thought they were perfectly fine before. We could say the same thing about dieting or blah 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 blah. It could be said in a lot of different veins. But in this set of circumstances, because we're just talking about surgery and aging, the two together, like I said, I'm not going to change my internal organs. They're going to be the same age that I am. They came in here with me, they're going to leave out with me, so therefore, and they have their life of their own. So since I can't necessarily replace them. I mean, all of my internal organs, who am I going to kill to be able to replace? It's not going to happen. So I have to accept the fact that although I can make myself look differently on the outside, it's just not going to change my inside. And I'm not going to live any longer if I do.
And Mo Bounce mentioned something basically talking about discipline. And that's an internal thing that either we have it and exercise it, or we don't. So there's no but our own. I mean, discipline, that is actually the key. I'm glad he brought that up, because that is very, very important. But the other thing about it, again, that I want to just, go back a little bit as we talk about the cosmetic surgery in terms of the mental piece. And again, I'm very glad you brought that up. The other challenge is how can I put this? And this is what I try to do in not just my professional career, but just in life.
Right.
Your power comes from being okay with you.
Absolutely.
It does.
Absolutely.
It comes from being okay with you. And if, as long as you're actually satisfied with you, because I believe if we all stood in the mirror, we can all look at our bodies and there could be something that we wish to change.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's all of us.
Yeah.
So some just choose to pay to have that done. You know,
Mm-hmm.
my nose is like an arrow. I inherited that from my mom. It's pointy. So
You sure did.
Yeah,
I know you.
So you know,
you sure did.
Would I want to lift that up, you know, a quarter of an inch, or would I want to, you know, bring the nostrils down? You know, so again, but at the end of the day, again, everybody's individual power, honestly, is just really being honest and transparent with their self. We can't, and even you have people who are like Shaquille O'Neal. I call him a freak of nature. You know, to be that big, in his prime, because he can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. So aging has got him too.
Absolutely.
But to be that big and that fast
mm-hmm.
and that wild. But he was only able to do that for what? Birth to 30?
Right.
So even a professional athlete, it hit him too. And so the transition, as you're talking about, whether it be a woman transitioning in terms of with respect to her outer beauty, or a man transitioning or going through that transition with respect to our strength, at the end of the day, we have to be able to either we're going to fight it or we're going to accept it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and again, it just has to be what it is. If you live long enough, as my mother used to say, then you will get older. If you live long enough, there's been too many we have known that have not made it.
Yeah,
and that's part of the aging process and conversation as well.
Well, I mean, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one other thing that you know, you and I talked about previously that we kind of want to touch on. We want to touch on with respect to, you know, end of life.
Yes.
And have to deal with the unfortunate thing, which is, you know, death, whether it be our own or even loved ones around us. And I think, you know, and I don't misquote me, but you know, I was doing some research, but basically human beings and it's like basically have the knowledge that we will die, that there's a mortality.
Mm-hmm.
The animals don't.
Right.
They don't.
So,
yeah, we have that. So because we do have that, we understand that inevitably it will occur. So aging kind of.
I don't know. I wonder, since we're not of the animal kingdom per se, they have to know historically from what they've seen around them that, you know, their mortality rate is what it is. They have to know, I would assume. Like I was thinking about praying mantises as an example. Right. You know, the women eat the men after they've mated. That whole thing kind of makes you not want to be a man in that sense. You know what I mean? Yeah. But they realize that, hey, once she's done, she's gonna eat me alive. You know, so she's truly a man eater, right? You know what I mean? But they have to know that. That has to be something I think that would have been instead. I could be very wrong, and obviously this is a conversation that we can continue to have. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious, and for the people that are on, if anybody wants to kind of jump in, what do you want your legacy to be? Since we're talking about aging, and that's a great aging question. Not even talking about your potential death or your, not even talking about that. What do you want your legacy to be? You know, what do you want people, as you start to grow older, the life that you're living, that you've been leading, what do you want people to remember about you? What would you like your legacy to be? Because I think it means something differently while we're still here, because we have an ability to change it versus once we're gone. So, and I've asked you that before, but I'm just curious, just, you know, just throwing it out.
Well, I think one of the things that was actually profound to me, and sometimes art imitates life, and was watching was it Fast and Furious, you know, Fast and Furious trilogy or whatever. Now they're up to 10, but you know, there was a little that was mentioned that, you know, we all have a code, and so I look at legacy as synonymous with my individual morals or my own code, and my code is very, very simple. Mm-hmm. I live by the code: if I can't help you, I'm certainly not gonna.
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna do. So I might not be able to help you. You know, you might call and say, "Yo, Chuck, you know, can you lend me $100?" I might not be able to lend you $100, but I'm also not going to hurt you as well. So that's really, so everything. That's the foundation of my legacy. That's what I want people to know about me. That's what I want to leave behind, is that, you know, he will try to help you, but if he can't help you, he's certainly not going to contribute to your problem or try to hurt you.
Well, let me piggyback off of that, because it's not just not wanting to, you'll help to the extent you can, definitely will not hurt. But if I'm unable to help you, so this is the continuation, then I will find a means or someone that can. So I will find someone that can point you in the direction, and I'll even walk you over to the person if that's the case, to be able to help you, because I would never want to see you hurt. So let me piggyback on that thought. Absolutely. I think that's just one of those credos type things. And I can absolutely agree with that. I would want to say that I hope that people, it's twofold, because I feel like, and I've told you this before, how I was in my youth versus the mature woman I am today, obviously two different things. And that I would hope that everyone could say that. I hope that everyone could say we've all matured and we've learned things, and we acted really foolish as a kid, but blah, blah, blah. But I feel like the standard that I hold myself to now, you know, being a saved woman especially, you know, and being on this Jesus walk, you know, my spiritual walk, I shudder at the woman or the young girl that I was, you know, and the young lady I was trying to turn into. I shudder at her when I look back at it. Like, man, all this stuff that I did, all of the things I said, my attitude, da 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 da. You know, like you said, D, from what's happening. That's not a good memory that I would hope people would have of me. But I think it's a fact that some do. I would say most people that went to school with us probably say, "Oh yeah, she was this or she was that." I mean, there's a couple of things that you could just name off the top, and there's nothing that I could do to dispute it, because that was the woman I am. But it's not the woman I am, or the young person I was. That's not the mature woman I am today that looks back and says, none of that was cute. And all of that to me was really ugly, and I regret it. So all I can go ahead.
That part, and I cut you off, I apologize. Isn't that a part of maturing? But it's also even
it is, but I'm talking about legacy. I'm just talking about, you know.
But even it's even more deeper than that, because even from a spiritual standpoint, that's really what grace is.
Absolutely. But not everyone understands that.
True. That's true.
Yeah, not you know, I would love to be able to say that, well, first of all, this relationship with the Lord is something that's free of charge. Anybody can have it. All you have to do is ask. You just have to ask for him to be your Lord and Savior. You know how the rest goes. But just to be able to, I mean, I'm even talking about as recent as 25 years ago, because I've been saved all of my life. Obviously, I've been probably saved more like the past 20 years. So in the past 25 years, 30 years, some of the decisions I made, some of the things I did, and again, if I'm saying I'm 54, and so let's take it back 20 years to when I was 34, you know, or 30, and I'm still doing childish things or still doing irresponsible things. So again, for those people that knew me then, I'm hopeful that they get a chance to witness me today, to understand that it's a mature woman that came out of those childish things, you know, those foolish things. And I'm really remorseful for a lot of that. And it's more attitude, I think, for me. It really is the attitude. The way I carried myself, it was okay, but attitude had way too many things to say out of my mouth. I mean, I could just keep going on and on. I just shudder at it, you know, because when we run it, like we were to go to a reunion now, and someone says, "Oh, hey, Tanya, how you doing?" Blah blah blah. I remember when we were in Miss Flatt's class in 7th grade, because Tanya remembers what she was like in 7th grade, and it was not pretty at all.
But
So,
but again, doesn't if you talk about legacy, but don't we have to again be very honest with ourselves and realize that legacy incorporates all of it?
it does. Yeah.
And so what I would be proud of, that you mentioned that, is your ability to transform and mature. That you're not making the same choices at 50 that you did at 14.
Yeah.
And you know, that's what I would actually be proud of. I mean, you know, I interviewed recently for a position at a prison,
Mhm.
and one of the things I told that I've spent my entire life trying to stay out of prison, only to now in my
Walk in,
years
welcome.
possibly work in one.
Right.
Um, but
Walk through the doors welcomely. I'm welcoming
yeah,
you walking in.
yeah. So the one thing that actually was I mean that was just irony to me. But the other thing that was also irony to me is that I realized, and that's why I don't judge. I'm glad I'm in the social work profession, but the kind of foundation of that is meet people where they are,
Absolutely.
and I'm glad I don't judge because I
Mm-hmm.
realize that many people who are currently locked up because they made a bad decision.
Yes.
14, could have made it at 16, could have made it at 25, could have made it at 45, but I'm only one bad decision
Yeah.
away. You know, deciding to, have that extra beer when I'm out on a social event and then get in my car and ride down the street and hit somebody on a bicycle or something.
Yeah.
I'm only one. We're all only one bad decision away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So is that a part of your legacy too? Yes.
Mm-hmm. 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 But think of it this way, because you and I were talking about this with the brothers the other day. Again, just these beautiful memories that we have, and what's up? Say what's up to our brother Greg Carter. Greg
Oh,
Carter,
what's going?
class of '88 on
Yeah.
the line. Greg was the thinnest dude I had ever seen from the class of '88. But anyway, one of the things about the memories that we have in da 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 da, and some of the things that we brought up, and you're speaking specifically about people's perceptions of you, and I really think, and I've said this about you. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say it on camera so that way everybody hears it. Whoever decides to watch this, how I remember you, you are that same dude. You're not wavering. You're not changing. For that, I would call you real. Okay, because you have been unwavering. Now, I may know you better is the word to use, because you've allowed me to get a little bit closer to you, in terms of you being my brother after all these years. But still, who I knew then is who I know today, and you've been unwavering. I can't say that. Maybe my friendship with you I can say, but I can't say that because I know that I have definitely changed, or at least I sure hope so. I sure hope so. And I'm grateful, like I said, for the maturity. Um, but when we were just talking about memories and talking about how we used to be, and again, we're talking about aging specifically on this call, and the things that we go through now, it would be one of those, if we could go back and change. What if we could go back and change something? What would you change? When we were talking to the brothers the other day, I was thinking, I don't want none of y'all to change. I loved everything that we all experienced and went through because we did it together. So look at GC. GC,
Well,
quit talking about red like that.
well, again, one of the things that was very, very profound, and even in one of our conversations with, Vinny, he brought up, I wish I would have known my influence. I
My
guess,
point. My
guess
point.
I was humble to a fault,
Yes.
and I wish I would have known my influence, because had I known what my influence was, I probably exercised it to further help other people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was young, so I'm just trying to get through the day myself. I'm just trying to get through classes myself. I'm just trying to get through school myself.
Mm-hmm.
So wasn't really, I wasn't really looking forward to how I can kind of help other people. And again,
But here's the
I didn't know my,
problem.
huh?
Yeah. Yeah. No. I was gonna say, but here's the problem. You knew your parents, and you knew your upbringing. You knew your upbringing was different than those around you, and even though you couldn't absorb it at the time, even though you didn't think you would have that kind of an influence, you knew it was different than what you were seeing around you, and not necessarily different
No, no.
bad. It may have been difficult, but not different bad.
Well,
And
you got to,
that,
no, but we got to go into this. I mean, because again, everybody's not going to have the same type of experience. I'm not meaning to cut you off,
yeah.
but a part of that and the product of it was actually my environment. There was, we talk about, village. I grew up in a
Mm-hmm.
village. Again, I said this on the last call that when we were talking that, you could do something. This is before cell phones, beepers, etc. And by the time you did it, the person or the adult there would actually reprimand you or chastise you.
Absolutely.
And then by the time you home, your parents already knew what had happened. And
Absolutely.
then I go down the street to chastise the parents who put you on the right path. They congratulate them, or they might have been embarrassed of your behavior, but they didn't do like the parents do today and say, well, why did you say that to my child? So I'm a product of, you're talking about, again, even when my mom passed, because I know we're talking about death and dying, etc. But even when my mom passed, I reached out to, I got emails or text messages from Michael Smallwood's mom, Greg Creighton's mom, Sam Lamar's mom. And they said, although your biological mom might be gone, you still have a mom left. It was almost like it was almost like Boys in the Hood at the end of the movie when he said, when Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character said to him, yo, Doe, you still got a brother left. So grew up in a time where, whether it be just your immediate circle or immediate neighborhood or even extended neighborhood, because I wouldn't have done something and Russell wouldn't have, Russell would have got me too. So, or Willie Louvert, Louvert or Sam Fellows, the village was extensive.
Absolutely. But aren't we grateful for that?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I was a product of that.
Yeah.
But again, not really knowing that in terms of influence I had in terms of other peers, I wish I'd have known that, because then I basically been able to do what I could to help them as well.
Sure. Well, but I defer back to the group of brothers that you were close to. Then I know all of them. So that particular core group of people you were very tight with, I could look around. If I was you standing in that circle of friends, your experience and your upbringing was completely different than all of them. Nothing to do with their parents, this or that, blah, 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 blah. It's just knowing your parents and how you were raised and the way they were raising you different. And so for that, when you see somebody like you were talking about, Vinny, who may have been having some struggles, or you just trying to help, whatever brother it is, I don't care, name any brother that you knew growing up, just kind of stay on the straight and narrow. You mentioned Sam, blah, 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 whatever the case. You could have had those conversations, but I don't, like you said, you didn't know how strong of an influence. And you don't know it until now.
Yeah.
Because now we're older and now we're more mature, and people can actually have those conversations openly and be transparent and say, hey, you know what? I should have kept hanging around you. I should have stayed around you. Or like we were talking about my neighbor up the street on the block, right? Without naming any names. What did I say the other day in the chat? I had to get away from that because that person was a little too fast for Tanya. And it was not happening. No, can't do that. Can't do that and will not do that. So, yes, indeed. Anyway, fair enough.
So that's what I'm pretty much saying, and again, now that, even as we transition, again, all of our life experiences are different. And so I am now a part of a small fraternity. And that fraternity is, and we've talked about this too, being very transparent, us who are now in the world at 54, 53, 55, who don't have either parent.
Yes.
And so, that's right now, at least in terms of my inner circle, that's Vinny, that's Kenneth King, and that's me.
Yeah.
We don't have a parent.
Yeah.
Some people only have one, and some people have both. And so, again, even that can be a challenge, especially growing up, because, your parents, just like we're parents now, we've switched places.
Yes.
And your parents have always been the kind of the bedrock.
Yes.
And so all of a sudden now you had to take whatever they taught you and be able to apply it, because there is no picking up the phone and calling them.
Well, it goes back to what I said a minute ago. We've turned into them. And for all of the years that we didn't think we were listening, because there's obviously a difference between listening and hearing. Oh, I heard you, but I promised I was listening because it's embedded in me. I have a lot of Russell-isms. God rest my father's soul. But there's so many Russell-isms other than looking in the mirror and I look like him and my oldest son looking like him. You know what I mean? There's so many lessons, so many valuable things that I can at any time reach down in the toolbox and pull back out. And it's relative and it's amazing to me. And now my understanding understanding of it is such because I'm, like I said, older, more mature.
Yeah, you could.
And, go ahead.
No, I'm saying you could receive it.
Absolutely. And it almost seems like I'm regurgitating sometimes because I'm like, my canned kind of response when I'm getting ready to use a Russellism is, well, as my dad would say, or as Russell would say, or blah, 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 blah. And I could repeat it verbatim like I just heard it yesterday. That's how deeply embedded it is in me. I'm grateful for that. Like you said, the village, I am grateful. GC, if you are still on, brother, I'm just curious what your thoughts are about um, growing older, because that's something that we're all doing, and what you're noticing. So if you want to jump into the chat and kind of give us some of your ideas and what you're experiencing, that would be perfect so we can kind of keep the conversation going. I know we've been talking about passing, because I asked a question about legacy. Um, I don't know ultimately what people are going to say about me. I hope that what people say now is Tanya was a saved woman, and she was very much into, the word and being very Christ-like, and because that's the life that I live. Good, better, and different. That is what it is. I would do anything for anybody, and I have no problems with that. I don't ask for anything in return because I don't need anything. I mean, I'm grateful for the friendship. I'm grateful for the fellowship. But from a financial blah blah, I'm like, nah, I'm not looking for anything. Just let's just love each other, and like Christ loved the church. You know. But I hope that that's what they say now. Now, anybody that knew me back from like y'all, like from like second grade, there's a lot to be said.
Greg actually made a comment. He again, I'm on the receiving end because I'm on my phone. He said, when he was 19, shot. So just
Yes,
being, that again, things happen in your life that do help shape your perspective on certain
absolutely,
things. So I'm
absolutely.
glad he
Life
was vulnerable.
changing, life
Yeah, I'm glad
altering.
he was vulnerable enough to share that, and transparent and vulnerable again. That's power,
Yes,
because that comes from within to even be able to share that. So I'm very appreciative that he actually shared that, that situation that transpired in his life that helped
absolutely.
shape who he is and who he's going to be moving forward. Again, going back to the legacy conversation.
Yeah,
Um, the other thing that I want to mention too, that again, for many of us who are actually on the phone, one of the best things that we could do for one another is so you don't have to guess. When they say about giving people flowers while they're alive, tell them. I know my old boss, Vernity Mabry, she popped on. I saw her name pop up. Phenomenal woman, just a phenomenal woman. She was my boss, but just a phenomenal, even if she wasn't my boss, just a phenomenal woman, a phenomenal leader. She led with integrity. And so, we were able to build a team and make some very positive things happen for other people. But that helped shape me in terms of my leadership style as I go into the world of work and how I try to influence others. She
right.
helped shape. This is in addition to what I had growing up between my mom and dad. This is somebody totally different that God placed it with our paths would cross that allowed me to do that. So, again, I think that, the best thing we can do back to you in terms of your legacy is pretty much give you your flowers now that, yes, I recognize I knew you then. I know you to recognize the transformation that you've made. And I even told you one of the biggest things that you've done for me being growing up in the church all my life. One of the things you've done for me is you've renewed my enthusiasm because I've watched you, and so you've helped to renew my enthusiasm. So that's a part. Yeah, that's a part of your legacy. But if I didn't share that with you, how would you know?
Absolutely.
So I'm thinking of a part of legacy, going back to that, is being able to share with the person while you can have that conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And, having said that, and I thank you for that. I mean, I humbly received that, as you know. Again, for anyone that jumps on and is like, why are these two talking? Again, just to kind of catch everybody up. Charlie is one of my oldest and dearest. He's also a day older than me.
Oh, you'll keep bringing that?
Yeah, listen, at every opportunity that I get. But we've known each other for, gosh, almost 50.
Yeah.
We're coming up on 50 years. That's terrible. I know I was telling Will that, like, can you understand? I've known this man almost 50 years. How many people can say that nowadays? It's amazing. But that again speaks volumes to where we lived, how we were raised, and the I have to be very careful how I say what I was going to say. Anyway, how we were raised and where we grew up at, and so and the era that we grew up in was just wonderful. It was just a wonderful time. But again, saying that, I humbly receive that from you, and it means a lot to me. And again, going back to the reason why we're on here, just to catch everybody up, we are doing what we call a check-in on it. We do it like kind of on a monthly basis. Where we just kind of check in and we chat about various things. Today we just happen to be talking about aging, and we're talking about the process of aging, what kind of goes on with aging, and we kind of touch a little bit upon death, because that is a process as well, part of the process. We were also talking about legacy, because it's important to talk about what do you want your legacy to be, and whether it be here, because you can change that now, or once you're gone. So just to catch everybody up, and appreciate everybody jumping on. You mentioned, did you say Bernadine? Am I pronouncing it
Yep.
correctly?
Bernadine.
Marbury?
Maybe
Okay, wonderful.
Bernadine.
Marbury. Glad to see you have joined us, my dear. Jerry, my brother Jerry from church. Jerry, I see you, brother. Good to see you. I'll see you tomorrow at church. Um, JC's talking about him and T Dub,
Uh-huh.
Terrell Watson. Yeah, that's a friendship that I've known for as long as I've known one. I've known both. Where I would see one, I would see both. So, but glad you all are on. So, but with that being said, ultimately, I asked a question about if we can go back and change. If you can go back and change anything, would you? Right? And if so, can you name 3 things? And this is
If I would,
for everybody that's listening too. So sorry.
I mean, for me, again, the only thing that I could mention, as I mentioned before, is had I known I had the influence, then I would have actually exercised that influence even to a greater degree to help
Absolutely.
others.
Absolutely.
Everything else, good, bad, or indifferent, is actually allowed me to be the person who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, again, humility, for the external world sometimes can work against you. And even for me, sometimes I have to take a look at it and say, well, am I too humble? I mean, looking at my resume, and I was basically saying, had a professional resume person take a look at it. She's like, you're severely underselling yourself. Well, I'll take it, because I'd rather undersell myself in doing his work, his will, than for it to be about me. So
Amen.
things have actually happened. They've worked out for me. I mean, I haven't, I've like everybody else have gone through some challenges. We will. I mean, the Bible says that we will go through some things, some trials and tribulations. But at the end of the day, I'm sitting here holding a Hall of Fame trophy that I got for a sport that when I was young I sucked at. No.
You
And
did
that's
not suck at baseball. How are you going to say that?
I did. I did. I sucked at, and so that was actually part of my speech. And even when I had conversation with Greg, we played against them, and I used to say, Greg, do me a favor, throw the ball slow down the middle so I can hit it. I sucked at it, and so that's what I'm saying in terms of that personal power is being able to acknowledge where you were and how you've come through
Mm-hmm.
that. But yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
horrible, and so to actually be recognized for something that I mean, even in terms of writing, I'm in the process of writing a couple books. I've been in the process of writing a couple books for like 20 years. But that was something that was not a strength of mine. If I got a C in English, I was celebrating. And so again, when you turn around and you take those things that, when you take those things that you used to struggle with and they now become compliments to who you are, again, that's all I'm saying. So.
Well, Greg is a mess. Um, I I think I've said this a lot over the years. If I can go back and change it, because I've asked that question a lot. If I can go back to change it, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't, because that is the foundation in which I live upon. Um, it's what's made me the woman I am today. I've
Yes.
had to experience those trials and tribulations in order to be the woman I am today, to have been able to come to Christ, and now be able to have this Jesus walk, as I like to call it. So I wouldn't change not a stitch of anything from even those times that I'm talking about being embarrassed of me being immature and blah 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 blah. I realize it's a part of my process. So no, I wouldn't change anything because the woman I am today, I'm grateful to be, and I'm grateful to have woke up this morning, and to be able to have this type of dialogue and be able to fellowship, and I'm just grateful for it. So I could look back and say, "Ooh, Tanya, that's some of that wasn't a good look," but I'm still grateful for it.
And
So I wouldn't change anything.
and again, I see, your response, because again, as a social service, professional, we begin to look at these things. And so I also saw where my sister. I call her my boss for reference, but that's my sister, just like you're my sister. So she pretty much said the same. So you have, so you're talking about that strength. I know the strength that you have, knowing you for 50 years. I know the strength she has, knowing her for 15 years. I mean, so
Yeah.
it's that strength, and that ability to acknowledge who you were and also now who you are. So I think you asked a very profound question in terms of, what would you change? Or why would you change?
Or would
Or
you? It's the would you, and if you would, what would you change?
Mhm.
Because I think it's a fair question to ask. I think a lot of people say, "Well, I'd go back, and if I could do it all over again, I'd go back and do da 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 da." I'm not unhappy with my life. It's almost like us talking about plastic surgery. It can
Mhm.
only fix the outside. Those organs are still old. If I could go back and change it, I'm going to rewrite history. So what? Okay, so as a prime example, for anybody that's listening that didn't know, How I Met Charlie Red by Tanya Hill.
Oh no, you don't need to go there. You don't need. You can leave that. You can, yeah. You can skip. Yeah, you can skip over that.
First
I don't think they're
day
interested.
of second grade. Look, let's just talk about it. First day of second grade, and Charlie and one of his chums came waltzing into the classroom, and me and my then neighbor were sitting, not facing them. We had our backs turned, and these two, who I guess thought that they were the best thing walking in second grade, walking the class, and da, 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 talking loud, having a good time, whatever. And the next thing you know, they spot me and her, and they're like, "Hey, who are those two?" Probably said, "Who are those two foxes?" Because it was the 70s. Those two foxes. I'm like, and my neighbor Scarlett and I, we looked at each other like, I know they're not talking about us. So then we turn our heads back. Anyway, long story. The long of the short that I always tease Charlie about is that the two of them sat back really as they had options and decided which of the two of them wanted the two of us. Okay, well, which one do you want? Well, I want her. Well, yeah, I want her. We didn't have a say so in the matter. They decided for us, apparently. And the bad part about it was, I don't know if either one of them came up and talked to us or whatever, but they decided in that moment. And that is how I grew to know who he was. Now, having said that, for anyone that's curious, Charlie didn't pick me. Let me say that on camera. He didn't pick me. He picked my neighbor, Scarlett. Scarlett, if you ever listen to this, I hope you remember that. Charlie Red picked you, okay? And then Sam picked me. And the only difference is I actually ended up going and hanging out with Sam over at his house, blah, 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 go over and try to play, blah, 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 until him and his family ended up moving. I was heartbroken. But the bad part was Charlie lived right next door to Sam. I mean, I could keep going with this. It was really ridiculous. But here we are, almost 50 years later, and who is he on camera
Yeah,
with?
yeah.
Um, who is the godfather of my children? I'll
That
leave it at that. So there you go.
again, all things work together. That's all I'll say. All
Greater
things,
good. For the greater good. Yes, 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 yes.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, that is actually a very, very funny story. But that's
It's
again,
actually pitiful.
but
It's pitiful.
you're what, 8 in the
Something like
in the second, something like
Something like
that.
no. We were 7 because it was
We're young.
70. Yeah,
We're
we were
young. Yes.
7. Yeah.
I mean, also in the same second grade. I was talking. Vinny and I were talking about. It was actually funny because again, things that happened then, as we talk about again, aging, how things change,
Yes.
aging from then to now. even back in the second grade, there was a young lady named Kim Ford, and she basically was Shannon's girlfriend on the way to the field trip. She was my girlfriend at the field trip, and she was Vince's girlfriend on the way home. So,
I mean, you know, she had
child,
skills. She had
as,
game. I mean,
yeah, yeah, that's what they would say today. But as a child, you think as a child. So I'm just basically saying that again, as we talk about the whole aging concept or the aging topic, and how we do that, it's really individualistic.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
who are you and who are you and to what degree do you feel comfortable with yourself as you're moving through this?
Yes. Yes.
Choice as a result have you made?
Yes. Well, let's go back just to touch upon death again. You and I have had a long conversation about the year you were born, the year you die, and life
The dash.
is that little bitty dash in between.
Uh-huh.
Can you absolutely fathom that life is the equivalent of a dash? I mean, I can't really hold my hand the right way. It's a dash.
It is.
I could be on this earth for 50 or 60 years, and that's represented by a dash.
Correct.
So
correct.
I go back to, what do I want my legacy to be within this dash, in this blink of time?
It is.
Because technically, life is a blink. How many times did we hear our parents say, I can't believe that you're XYZ age?
Mm-hmm.
I have my mother who's getting ready to be 81, bless her heart, saying, I'll say, well, wow, Mom, you know, Stephen is going to be 33, and you know, Kenneth is 30, and Jacinda just turned 24, blah, blah, blah. I can't believe it. She's like, well, if you can't believe it, how do you think I feel? I'm going to be 81, and I'm like, well, yeah. You know, but it's the point of, we felt like we blinked. I feel like we were at graduation in 87. We blinked, we opened our eyes, and I'm giving birth to my youngest son. Quickly. I blink again, and I live in Kansas, and you know what I mean? I'm studying to work in healthcare. I mean, whatever that is. I blink again, my father's deceased. I blink again, I'm getting married to Will. I mean, all of these, it's just a blink. It's just how quickly life goes, how quickly time goes, and time waits for no man. Amazing.
Or woman, that's what I'm saying. That's why I even thought I liked that the top of the conversation that we were having when you gave perspective. And I think that's really the power of our conversations that we've had. We're just sharing our conversation pretty much with the rest of the world.
Yes.
But I think really the value of our conversations are, again, every man or every woman doesn't have all the answers. And so there are different perspectives. And so when you talked about, again, aging, or now even death and dying from a woman's standpoint, how does it impact a woman, or you in particular? But again, having you represent the entire, womanhood, or me to, represent the entire manhood, it's just still individualistic. But, as you talked about some things that are probably common amongst many women who they experience. And I tried to share the same things that might be common amongst men as we go through the aging process. Again, not having the same, virile strength or, that we used to have. So again, those are very, 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 very profound things that we're dealing with as we go through this process we call aging.
Absolutely. Let me throw this one in there, and then I know we probably have to jump on. When we were talking about it, and again, I want to give, because I want to make sure he sees this, giving a shout out to my brother, your brother, our brother, Dwayne Vincent Harris. We are giving Vinny his flowers for this particular topic. I want to make sure that we all say thank you to Vinny for bringing this topic forward, and just for anyone again that's watching or that will watch. This is just what Charlie and I called the check-in. We talk frequently, but this was something that we just wanted to do, where we get an opportunity to check in, not just with one another, but with all of you, jump on a live chat and just kind of, chop it up on various topics, da-da-da-da. And we just happen to come in preloaded with the topic today. I see my sister Michelle is watching. Michelle Woods, I see you. And our sister Stephanie. Hey, beautiful. Good to see both of you ladies. But I want to give Vinny his flowers in this moment for coming with the aging topic. And the one thing that was hilarious that he had said to us recently in text message was, you know, I'm getting older because I lost all the hair on top of my head and it's sprouting out in my nose and my ears. Go ahead, Vinny. He has turned into him, is what it is. I see our sister Sylvia Mungia. Sylvia, it's good to see you, sister. But yeah. So anyway, um, GC, we appreciate you, brother. We absolutely do. We love and adore all of you that jumped on with us. Again, just to kind of give you a heads up, and I probably would rather have Charlie say it to you because you know he don't like to talk a lot. Um, this is something that we will do on a monthly basis. Hey, Sylvia, how you doing, sister? Good to see you. This is something we'll do on a monthly basis. We started last month with having this kind of just random conversation. We were just kind of reminiscing and blah, blah, blah. But since we are doing it monthly and we do look for topics and we want to be able to talk about a little bit of everything with some levels of sensitivity with understanding our audience. But if you guys can think of anything, please send us messages. You know, we would love to be able to have a litany of things to talk about, and we want you all to engage with us as well. But Charlie, do you want to talk a little bit about check in with productions and just a little bit, just a skosh, a little bit? I want to see what you can say about it.
I mean, because there's really nothing for me to say. You know, this was, you know, your brainchild. And so I trust you that things that you have put together, because that's what you're good at, and we flow with it. And again, that's why I said that's one of the core competencies that I learned from my sister, Vernadine Mabry. She always used to say, I don't have to be the smartest in the room. My job as a leader is to be able to assemble those who are good at various things and let them be the best that they can be. So when you actually brought up, even in terms of the I guess the topic of, you know, check-in, I basically went with you. I trust you. So I went with you. And the only thing I wanted to keep was, again, the fly on the wall concept, that we have these conversations anyway, and we have them sometimes numerous times. This is just an opportunity to allow other people in and be a fly on the wall as we check in with each other. Give them also a platform and a forum if they want to bring up anything that, you know, again, we know them, they know us. And those who know you and don't know me, maybe they can get to know me, and vice versa. But that's really what this is all about. This is not, you know, trying to get us to a point where we can, you know, sell it to a major network. No, this is really just for us. And so again, I appreciate you taking that in your skill set. You take something and you run with it. You see it to its completion. And so that's why we're on today. So that's pretty much what this whole check-in is about. And so I'm appreciative of you because you used your skill set, which you're good at, and that's why we're here today.
Looks like GC wanted to join the chat real quick. Let me pull him up real quick. GC, if you're still on, I'm gonna go ahead and add you, brother, because we'd like to be able to have you jump on, because we're gonna jump off here in a couple of minutes. But as we said, we're gonna be doing this on a monthly basis. So there he is. Come on, GC, I need to see your face, brother. You gotta turn that camera on.
Oh, what up, y'all?
There he is.
Hey,
GC.
what's happening?
Hey.
How you
Hey,
doing,
yo,
bro?
can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Man, I just want to say one thing, Charlie Red, man. Ever since I was a little kid, even though you was just a year older, man, ever since I was a little kid, that's all I heard. Charlie Red, Charlie Red. I was like, man. And then when I met you at the Jesse Owens track meet, that's my guy right there, boy. Man, I admired you, man, from the time I met you till now, bro.
Thank you.
You was a big part of my life. I just want you to know that.
Thank you. Again, I had no idea, and I appreciate that, and I received that. And you know, again, I would rather that than, you know, this asshole. I mean, excuse me, this booty hole who, you know, who wasn't real. So I mean, I'm hoping I showed you the love, and apparently I did.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did. That's what I'm saying. You don't know how. Yeah, you don't know how good that made me feel, bro. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you for
man,
that.
you was my guy, man. You was my guy, dude. I don't care what nobody say. Your ass is fast, nigga.
Well, all right.
A
Yeah.
lot of people. That's one thing. You know, when you move from place to place, See, a lot of people don't know that about me, and so that's actually one of the reasons why I was very reluctant when Tanya talked about this to do this,
Mm-hmm.
because again they didn't know about me. They just know
Mm-hmm.
me as being on the job or whatever the case may be. They didn't know my history.
Right, right, right. But us that know, we know.
If you know, then you know. All
That's
right.
right. That's right.
GC, I love you, brother.
And Tanya, don't get it twisted, Tanya. You was a big part of my life too. Come on now. You gotta admit it.
Yeah.
We looked up to
Listen,
you too.
brother, I'm gonna tell you what. I said it to you. I said it earlier in the cast. Brother, you was singing this, dancing this. I mean, I'm like, look at Greg go. You were in there gifted and choir, magical brother. Just talent. You and T Dub. You and Dub of all people. You
Right, of all people, huh?
of all people getting into trouble and stuff. But y'all had it going on. And I'm so grateful for you. All these years later, just so glad to know that you're with us
Mm-hmm.
and grateful
Yeah,
that you're
right.
with us. You know what I'm saying?
That's
So
right.
bless your heart, baby. We love you to death.
Man,
Absolutely.
love you guys too, man.
Thank
Y'all
you.
guys keep it up, man, because this is good. I like that.
Bye-bye. Well, look, well, come back and join us next month.
For
We'll
sure.
be back. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, brother. We love you.
Hey, love y'all too, man. Be good.
All right, y'all. Bye.
Good seeing y'all too.
You too.
Yes, sir.
Yes, indeed. Well, Charlie Red, I got my Uncle Homer on here. Homer Words, my mother's brother. I see you looking up. If you decide you want to speak, I see you, brother. It's good to see you. But Charlie, with that, I know we got to bring this to a close. So any final thoughts? Again, we started in talking about aging. We transitioned it to death, and just being a part of the process. Along the line, we talked about legacy. What people would like to you'd like people to remember about you or to think about you now. You know, and everything in between. So any passing or final thoughts? Can't hear you, brother. Are you turned down? Nope, can't hear you. Well, nope, can't hear you. Well, this is what happened to us last month, remember? So that's our cue that it's probably time to go. Oh my gosh. Well, listen, for anybody that's listening in or that's watching this or that will watch it, again, this has been our check-in with. We will be doing this on a monthly basis. We're just really happy that you decided to join us. If you have any topics you'd like to cover, please let us know. We would be more than happy to bring it to the forefront. We hope to see all of you again soon. So thanks for checking in.